From the Oregon State University Extension Service, this is Pollination, a podcast that tells the stories of researchers, land managers, and concerned citizens making bold strides to improve the health of pollinators. I'm your host, Dr. Adoni Melathopoulos, Assistant Professor in Pollinator Health in the Department of Horticulture.
Frequent listeners of this show know that I absolutely love Oregon. You may also have picked up that I love Alberta, Canada as well, the place that I'm from and learn my beekeeping. But I want to add another location onto this list, and that is Georgia. I had the great pleasure to go to the Harris Young Beekeeping Institute on its 30th anniversary, where I got to meet the delightful Georgia beekeepers. They are a wonderful group of people. They're very innovative, a lot of fun, let me tell you. My jaw literally dropped being at the Harris Young Beekeeping Institute. It has a wonderful program. It's held every year. If you're in the region, you should definitely attend if you haven't in the past. It's held in the mountains of Northeast Georgia, which was stunning at that time of the year. But it's also integrated together with the University of Georgia's prestigious Master Beekeeping program. And that is where I met our guest today. Julia Mahood is one of the very few Master Craftsman beekeepers from the Master Beekeeping program from Georgia. She earned this designation through a fantastic research project on drone congregation sites that we're going to focus on today, but she also does a lot of education in Georgia prisons, beekeeping education in Georgia prisons. She's just an astute observer of bees, an excellent beekeeper, educator, and I'm so delighted to bring her today to you on Pollination. Okay, well, welcome to Pollination.
I'm so excited to be on Pollination. I am.
Well, it's a mutual excitement. This is really great, and I had the good fortune of being here at the Young Harris Beekeeping Institute and during the master's program, and you have successfully ascended to the level of craftsman.
Master Craftsman. Yep.
So this is above the master's level.
It is.
How long did it take you to do this?
You know, the minimum is you have to have held the master beekeeper for 2 years. I've been a master beekeeper for 12 years, but I didn't really think about doing this for a while after that. And I thought about sitting for the test in 2020, and then it got canceled because something happened. And it was actually good that I had that extra 2 years because I was able to really, I felt much more confident about fulfilling all the requirements. Mm-hmm. So it takes years. I will say that it takes years.
Well, I had the good fortune to see the work that you've done towards your certification, and one big element of that was drone congregation areas. Mm-hmm. Maybe just and your innovative way of trying to detect them. Can you just start? Many of our listeners may not know what a drone congregation area is.
Yes. With honeybees have unique mating behavior. They only mate when they're flying in the air, very high up. It's impossible to see really with the naked eye. But honeybees, the drones and the queens leave the nest in the afternoons, and they fly to these specific areas that we call drone congregation areas, and it can be an area from 30 to 200 meters in diameter. And they fly around and look for bees to mate with, and then the drones will come back if they don't get to mate, suck up honey and go to another DCA in the afternoon, or perhaps visit the same ones. And the thing that's so fascinating is there's some mystery about the DCAs because they remain constant year after year.
Oh, they do?
They do. But there's no intergenerational learning with the drones. They don't communicate. They don't do any dancing in the hives. So we know that they don't do that. But they die out in the winter. Mm-hmm. And there was an interesting study done where they marked all the drones in several colonies with dots of paint on their backs, and then overnight they moved them several hundred kilometers away to a different apiary. And in that area, they knew where the DCAs were, and then they trapped. So they took them there overnight. They opened up the hives. They had people waiting in the DCAs trapping bees, and within 15 minutes, they were trapping those marked drones, which is just kind of mind-boggling that they knew where to go, that they found the DCAs within that short amount of time. And this is sort of folklore, but supposedly there's a DCA in Sheffield, England, that's been known to have bees in it since 1722. So,
wow.
Right?
Okay.
And drones got the name drones because of the roar that they make when they fly, the buzzing. Mm-hmm. And when you've got thousands of drones flying in the air, 12 to, I don't know how many, 12 meters to 100 meters high, then you're going to get this roar when it's heavily populated. And that's how, one way to find DCAs is just to walk around and listen to that roar, but that's challenging, mm-hmm. and especially if there's any ambient noise. So the way researchers...
Where are these located? How high off the ground are they?
Well, the bees are flying at sometimes different heights.
Yeah.
So at least 12 meters
okay.
up to, I have to do the math. I'm used to the feet thing.
Yeah.
But they will come down low.
Okay.
But they can also fly up to 400 feet off the ground.
Okay.
And I've seen them as high as that.
So one is, because there's so many of them, you could actually hear them, even if they're
yes.
up elevated. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. So in one of my more populated DCAs in the spring, my hearing's not great. It's not bad, but I live in a city where there's a lot of ambient noise, and you can hear it, and it's just it gives you the chills to listen to that roar and to hear. It's kind of like when you hear a swarm leaving. In a little different tone.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So finding DCAs, traditionally what researchers do is they walk around with helium weather balloons filled with helium with queen mandibular pheromone attached and just look for bees on it.
Queen mandibular pheromone, what's that?
QMP is the sex attractant in queen honeybees. So
okay.
It's a queen mandibular pheromone.
Oh, so she gives a scent off, and
she has that scent.
Okay, all right. So
and a little funny side story.
Yeah.
I was given this talk once, and I said you use QMP, and I had a friend in the audience. It was at a dinner, and there was some alcohol involved, and so my friend's wife leaned over and said, "Did she just say they use human pee?" It's not human pee. Might be a little easier to come by than ordering it from a bee supply.
Okay,
anyway,
so it's up. There's this smell in the air, and
yes.
these drones.
The sex attractant. So when the drones are hanging out in the DCAs, mm-hmm. and when a queen enters the DCA, they can smell her QMP from 300 feet away.
Okay.
They can see her from 50 feet away, but they smell it instantly.
Okay.
And they fly, they sort of trail behind each other and fly in these comets with, sort of one in the front and these drones trailing behind.
Uh-huh.
And then the honeybees are polyandrous, so the queen is going to mate with many drones. When the first drone meets with her, it kills him, he dies, and the next one lines up. It takes 1 second.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's an audible popping noise.
Oh, dear.
So it's pop, pop, pop. She mates with up to, the average is 20 drones, but sometimes we know that she's mated with upwards of 50 or 60 drones. And the more drones, the better. But most drones, queens are outnumbered thousands to one. So mm-hmm. they fly in these drone congregation areas. They don't mate, they go back and suck up more honey and come back. But finding them with a helium balloon is expensive. Helium is it's a finite gas, and there's actually a shortage, and so it's kind of expensive.
Okay.
But you can also only monitor the area that you're walking under with this balloon, so it's just not very tenable.
Oh, right, because there may be a tree in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't eat it. Yeah, all right, gotcha. Yeah, that's a problem.
It's expensive. It really takes two people. So I worked on a way to use the other kind of drone, a mechanical drone, unmanned aerial vehicles. So
let me get this straight. You're using a drone to look for drones.
Yeah, drones for drones. It only gets a little confusing. Yeah. So I usually refer to the mechanical drone as a UAV for unmanned aerial vehicle. So I take my UAV and I tie thin cotton thread to the feet of the UAV, mm-hmm. and I dangle a little weighted lure. The queen mandibular pheromone is lure.
Okay.
And just fly up in areas, and it can feel like looking for a needle in a haystack, but when you find one, it's just like so totally worth it. It's really awesome.
So you got this drone with this little thing dangling down, mm-hmm. and you just sort of, you just kind of like, I'm going to go for a walk today, and you just fly your drone around, and then how do you know when, I guess, I guess you're watching you can see it from the ground.
So you use your controller
Yeah.
for most of them have cameras on them.
Oh.
Yeah, so
okay.
you really need one with a camera on it, which
Okay.
is cool because you can see the drones flying up close to the camera, and you can also see down, and that's another reason you want your lure to be big enough that you can sort of easily find it with your camera. So you're looking on your screen and you see the lure, and if you're in a DCA, you know within a couple minutes because they're like, queen lure, and they come flying over and they're flying all around, and so it's pretty easy to know. It is, it can be, like I said, like finding a needle in a haystack, but we know that I've had luck anyway going for depressions in the landscape. Bees tend to fly out and want to go downhill and not go uphill. So you can use Google Earth Pro to look around you can sort of go out from your apiary and look for depressions in the landscape, and that's a place to try. It's good to get permission if you can so that people don't get upset with you flying. There's an apartment complex near my house, and I was flying over it. There's like, the books say open area with the windbreak, so that's kind of what I was going for at first. And I flew all around the complex, and I went back and I was looking at my video, and I flew over the swimming pool, and there were people not very happy that there was a drone, and there was, so they were gesturing that they didn't like that, but I was really not a creepy person wanting to look at bikinis. I was looking for honeybees having sex.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so let's boil this down, because this sounds like something that, a really fun activity. If somebody is a bee enthusiast and you want to check out your area, you might want to do. So what do you gotta, I guess you gotta buy one of these unmanned.
UAVs, yeah.
And what's that like? With a camera?
With a camera.
Yeah.
So there are many different, you can go from $60 to $1,400.
Okay.
Obviously, the better, more expensive ones, it's going to have some advantages, but you don't really have to spend that much. You do need one that has a controller that you can look at a video on the screen, because you want to be able to I ordered a $50 one from Amazon, and it had the ability to take video, but you couldn't see it in real time, and that does not work. But and then you need to have something that has a way to attach like a piece of thread that's not so close to the propellers. Okay. Because you don't want to get the thread caught up in your propellers. And there's one for about $75, $80 that will work. But you can also, these things are everywhere. It seems like everybody and their brother has one. So if you have a friend that has one, or a lot of people in construction use them. But the hobbyist people, you might have a friend who's looking for a reason to fly their UAV, which could be cool. It could be a partnership, or so lots of people have them.
Until you tell them that you're going to be using human pee with it. Okay.
Exactly. So the other thing is, an easy thing to do is to reach out to your local UAV clubs, because these people love
they're
kind of
idea.
like beekeepers. They like to get together and do it. And you can ask people, like if I meet anyone that says they have a drone, I say, have you ever had an instance where a lot of bees were mobbing your drone? Because an interesting thing that I've noticed is that there's it looks like defensive behavior to me. The drones fly up, even though there's queen lure down below, they fly up into and they do get chopped up in it.
Yeah.
It's a little sad, but
other drones.
There's a few. Yeah. They're expendable. They're so cute though. But they're flying into this strong wind of the propellers, so that's why it feels aggressive to me. So they are attracted to it. And if you go on YouTube and you put in honeybees and drones, what you see is people, these wild stories. A swarm of honeybees attacked my drone protecting the queen or something, and it wasn't a swarm. They were way too high up. You can tell from the video that there was a DCA that they just happened across. So I asked people, have you ever had that happen?
And then you go back to that spot.
I give them my card and say, if you ever find it, please let me know where it is.
I'll be darned.
So that's something that's easy. And then, you could even, if you have somebody who says they found it, you could walk out in the afternoon and just stand there and look and listen and see. But time of day is important. When you read the books and the beekeeping books about DCAs, you will frequently read that they're in DCAs from 12 to 3 or 1 to 4. And I live in Atlanta in the South, and our drones fly later in the day. And there was a researcher in Florida who did some work on drone congregation areas, and she actually almost gave up her project because she was monitoring them too early. And then she discovered, they really start flying en masse at 4 p.m. So time of day matters. You might map out a couple spots, but then, go back every hour, just find some, or rotate around a few places by the time you get your equipment out and set it up and go to another one. And then, circle back around. I've seen drones in a DCA at 7 p.m. in the summer, where it doesn't get dark till 9. So time of day is also important. If you're in a warmer area, you might want to fly a little later.
I suppose you could check your colonies to see if the drones are.
I started out doing that, and I was like, well, I see these fellas flying at noon, so I'll go out. But there's one DCA which is very heavily populated. I've never seen anybody in there before 3 p.m., and then it really heats up at 4.
All right, okay.
So even though they were flying in, and I wondered about that, like maybe we know that they take cleansing and orientation flights as younger drones. Maybe they're going out, maybe those are guys going out a little earlier.
Yeah.
And there's also some evidence that smaller drones who are less competitive, that they sort of maximize they try a little harder by going earlier or staying late.
Oh, right.
Kind of like the people who are left at the bar at the end of the night.
Yeah.
We're likely to.
Not the best time to go for a date. You're looking to pick somebody up. Okay, so there's you've got the drone, but where do you get the QMP?
The QMP, there's a product called Temp Queen that is made to put in a queenless colony. If you've ordered a queen and you don't know when she's going to arrive, and it'll keep them laying workers from develop. And it's queen mandibular pheromone, artificial, these little green tubes. And Better Bee sells it and Man Lake sells it. I'm not sure who else sells it.
Okay.
And one of them sells like a 3-pack, and it's not terribly expensive. It's less than $10 for a little pack.
You can reuse them.
And so you keep it in the freezer.
Yeah.
And it's good for a couple years.
Okay.
As soon as I come home, I put mine in the freezer. But there's a UAV pilot who I was working with who was helping me out, and I gave him some, and I'm like, put it in your freezer. And he confessed to me that he left it on his garage floor for a year, and it still worked.
Okay.
You just keep it in the freezer, and it lasts a very long time.
And what? This is not a product placement, but is there a drone that you have that you really like?
I have a DJI Phantom 4, and it's really nice. And the nice thing about that is it's the white ones that you see, and it's got feet that are kind of long. So there's a big distance between the propellers and the bottom. And that whole thing about getting the thread caught up in the propellers is helpful. And then I have a little Mavic Mini, and it's smaller. It sits close to the ground, but I found this little attachment. It's like sled runners, which if you're going to use one of those mini drones of any brand, I recommend getting something like that. People 3D print them because it just keeps that thread lower away. And the reason why you want to use thin cotton thread, because if your lure gets caught on something, it's better to have it break and lose a couple bucks in lure than to crash your very expensive UAV.
Okay.
But that's, one thing to look for if you're going to do it is the height of the propellers to the ground. The more distance, the better.
Okay. Now, one thing that you've established is a way. This is great because so little known. There were these reported UAVs, drone congregation areas, but we don't have a real. They're a little spot, close to a university where somebody was interested in doing drone research or something. But you've created a website where people can upload drone congregation areas. Tell us a little bit about the website.
It's a little citizen science project, and it's called mapmydca.com. And it's a Google map, a special Google map, where people have pinned where they've found drone congregation areas. And it's free, and the data on it is free. So I encourage people, and also on the website you can read about DCAs and drones and how to find DCAs using this method. And you don't have to use this method to find the DCAs. What's important is that you know where they are. So anybody can register as a user and put a pin on the map, and it's optional how much information you want to enter, but there are questions about temperature and how often you visit it and time of day. And then your pin will show up, and then it's my little field of dreams. My hope is that it'll fill up and that we will just have a bigger collection of data so that we can better analyze the DCAs. And who knows? Who knows what we might find out? In Atlanta, the DCAs that I've found tend to be over tree canopy. Even when there's an available open field with a windbreak, which is what you read in the books, they tend to be open fields with a windbreak. Even though there are some adjacent to these DCAs, they are above the tree canopy, which which is very difficult, if not impossible, to survey with a weather balloon. So it's kind of understandable that those are the ones we know about. So even just something as small as that, we might be able to gather some understanding.
Okay, and the instructions for a protocol are on the website.
It's all on the website. Yep.
Well, I really think this is if you're a master beekeeper in the state of Oregon, do you have any dots in Oregon?
I have no dots in Oregon.
So if you're a master beekeeper in Oregon and looking for a project,
yes,
doing the DCAs of the Willamette Valley, that would be a wonderful project. Just putting it out there for you.
Very cool. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on achieving the Craftsman certification.
Thank you.
And
it's really been a pleasure to meet you and to talk with you today. It's really been fun. A really fun time here at the Beekeeping Institute.
Oh, and I hear that you were the license plate designer.
Yes.
Well, we would love your license plate as well.
Thank you. Or does Oregon have a bee plate?
I'll show you in a minute.
Okay.
Shh, don't let anybody hear. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you so much for listening. The show is produced by Quinn, Sin, and Neil, who's a student here at OSU in the New Media Communications program, and the show wouldn't even be possible without the support of the Oregon Legislature, the Foundation for Food and Agricultural Research, and Western SARE. Show notes with links mentioned on each episode are available on the website, which is at pollinationpodcast.oregonstate.edu. I also love hearing from you, and there's several ways to connect with me. The first one is you can visit the website and leave an episode-specific comment. You can suggest a future guest or topic, or ask a question that could be featured in a future episode. But you can do the same things on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook by visiting the Oregon Bee Project. Thanks so much for listening, and see you next week.